Hey folks, it's Jumping Quails, and welcome back to another edition of the Weekly Ramble. Today's edition, or this week's edition, is about sports, athletics, that fun stuff, whether it be recreational, professional, collegiate, high school, or youth. I have a long history with sports, and a history that is still ongoing, I should say. Sports has always been kind of an interesting for me. Thing for me, and I guess I might as well say it, right? The Olympics are going on right now. You might as well, throw this out there. Have the topic be about it. But I started sports from a very young age. I've played a lot of sports in my life. Some have definitely stuck with me a bit. Stuck with me longer than others. I remember when I was a kid, I played baseball. I played baseball, I think, for like 4 or 5 years, maybe. Probably 4. I think it was closer to 4. Maybe it was 3. I don't remember how long I played for. But I don't remember. Baseball is an interesting sport for me. Like, I can see why people would enjoy it, but for me, it was one of the most boring sports out there. And I wasn't bad at baseball, right? I only played when I was a kid. Apparently, I was okay. I was good. I could catch balls. I could hit a ball pretty well. But I just never really had fun doing it. I remember I was just kind of boring because, like, one, you either, if your team's at bat, right? If your team's up and you're swinging, trying to score. You're either sitting in the bench, you're not really doing anything, you're watching, you're cheering your guys on, that's cool. Or you're out there in the middle of the field. Sometimes you have to move around to go get a ball or throw or whatnot. And so it's like, yeah, sure, I can see why it's fun. But to me, it was really boring because I just wasn't moving around enough. It wasn't fun, it wasn't really energetic for me. And, like, the team could still make things energetic, don't get me wrong. It's not like the environment couldn't be. It was just, like, physically, it did not feel like I was doing much. Which is why I despise golf. Golf is... I can see why people like it, but golf to me is one of the most boring sports in the world. It's boring to watch. It's boring to play. It's so, like... It doesn't have, like... Again, I could be wrong. If you someone play golf, feel free to correct me, rip me a new one. But this is how I see it. It's mini golf is fun because it's fun. It's obstacles you got to beat. But fuck me, is real golf boring as shit. Because you just got to swing a fucking golf club. Obviously, there's technique and all that shit to it, but there's not much else other than that in my eyes. And so, I play soccer. I played soccer too. I think for 2 years as a kid. And soccer was a bit better. It just wasn't for me. Soccer, I think, was too much running, if you know what I mean. I respect, to this day, I have nothing but the fucking utmost respect for soccer players because the amount of fucking running they have to do back and forth in a single game, 90-minute game, 2-hour games, is fucking ridiculous. Like, I'm a track runner. I don't do more than 400 meters. They're fucking running miles in a fucking game. Like, it's crazy to me. And it's not like it's slow running half the time. A lot of times, if you're, you could be midfield, you're fucking running back and forth constantly, like full sprint. To me, that just seems like exhausting work. They have to condition so well. So yeah, there was baseball, there was soccer. Both of them never really landed with me. I respected soccer a lot more. Baseball was just boring. Soccer to me was boring to watch sometimes, but it's not boring to play unless you're like a goalie. It depends on the game, really, but it was a lot more fun to play soccer, I remember. And then I remember I started getting into football. All right, and this was like shit started going on for me. Flag football as a kid. I loved flag football. I stuck with football a good over a decade of my life. It was amazing. I enjoyed every single minute of it. I still have trophies from football in my room. I have pictures on the wall in my room. I love football. It was good. I was with a good team for a long time, and I probably still would have been playing football to this day if it wasn't for a few factors. To me, I always felt like I was kind of being at like some point. I felt like I was doing football just to make my dad proud, and like because he did football all the way to college. I wanted to get to college. My brother was playing football. To me, it felt like I needed to play football as well. I enjoyed football for a long time, especially with my first team. I remember football definitely made me a tougher guy now than I was back when I was a kid. But then I switched to another team, and God help me, that second team just whatever love I had for the game fucking dipped after that. I remember I also stopped liking football a little bit more because I love my dad and all, but he tried to get me to constantly watch football games and whatnot because he wanted me to be good. If you want to do something with this, you got to you've got to study the game, you've got to know it. And it's I didn't want to do that, and I always felt like I was being forced to. And that combined with a coach who would quite literally just burn us the fuck out. We had 4-hour practices, right? As not high schoolers, but middle schoolers. Ridiculous. We had 2-hour practices before game. Ridiculous. We had so many plays, it was physically impossible to remember them all. Fucking ridiculous. I hated the second coach I was with. The first coach, we had 45-minute practice before game, and we were fucking hitting each other. We were getting pumped. We were getting psyched. I fucking loved it. Yeah, second coach, just football. Pretty much freshman year. I quit my freshman year of high school. I remember I played 2 games my freshman year. Was done after that. Track and field, the sport that I'm doing, the sport that I enjoy the most. What I'm doing right now. I started that a little while ago. I started that. I think I've been doing that now for roughly 10 years. I started a bit later than football. But I remember I started out. I was just doing like the 100 sprints. I think the 200 and the 400. I did some long jump for a while. I fucking love long jump. Long jump was so fun. Granted, it was boring it was a little bit boring doing long jump, particularly because of the weight. For those who don't know what long jump is, if you watch like the Olympics and you see like they're running on like a runway and jump into a pit of sand, not like triple jumping where they jump 3 times and then go into the pit, or 2 times and then the third jumps into the pit. It's just one jump into the pit. That's what long jump was. I loved it. I remember I was getting bored. I remember I liked running, but like running around in a straight line or just around a track with no obstacles was getting boring to me. So I'm like, I want to do hurdles because I like the idea of jumping over things. And so I started getting into hurdles, and probably the best thing in my life because it gave me a secondary sport outside of football. And football, I gotta say, I mean, like once I started hurdling, I was not bad at hurdling. I want to say I was okay at hurdling when I first started out. I didn't have much lessons or experience under my belt, but I definitely tried, and I had fun doing it. High school, my freshman year, I had a coach who did not give me the light of day because, coincidentally, when I was still doing football, there was me and then we had a senior who was also a hurdler in varsity football. He was leaving because we had to lift for football before we went down to track. He was leaving weights much sooner than he should have. And so he was getting down to the track a lot sooner. And I was leaving on time, mind you. But my coach thought because of the guy who was leaving early, thought I was coming late and that I didn't want to be there. And I tried telling him, he did not let me hear. I had to tell my dad. And when my dad's pissed, it's one of the scariest fucking things. He went down there and he had a talk with the coach. And he also talked with the other coaches on the track team for our high school. Because we knew them we knew them from both history of Coach Gillian, Coach Frazier, Coach Hoffman. We all knew them. We all knew them from past sports. So it was like, we knew them. And like, they're like, look, if he doesn't work with you, we'll work with you. But like, of course, after that, the coach starts working with me more. I did okay my freshman year. There was another freshman who was much better than me. My sophomore year, that's when I started doing really good. My coach was like, oh yeah, like he started paying attention to me and whatnot. And I was like, okay, cool. I mean, doesn't excuse what you did my freshman year because you kind of fucked me. Like he was a nice dude. He was just a weird dude. He was an old Asian guy. I don't mean to like use that as a defining trait, but like he was like either he was like fake wealthy or he was wealthy because he had multiple cars. He bought donuts for us. He constantly took us out to sushi. Dude was weird. He had a really weird sense of like really old school style of humor, which is like nowadays he'd probably like get canceled for the kind of humor type of stuff. I'm not gonna go into it just to save myself the trouble. But yeah, my junior senior year of high school, he didn't really do much more for me. He taught me the basics, and after that, I kind of had to work on the more specific stuff and the skill by myself or with my other coaches. But I mean, he did his job. I'll give him that much. And I mean, then we also I got a scholarship to the school or to my school that I'm going to now for track and field. I was psyched about it because I quit football my freshman year. So I'm like, okay, my dad's like, you got to, like it was always for college. Like if you're not gonna do football, you either got to do super well in high school to get scholarships, or you got to do another sport. I'm like, okay, well, I'll do track. And so I did track. I got a scholarship into college, like because of that. So it fucking helped me out. I loved it. I was doing something that I liked. Granted, I never wanted to go pro with track. I did track, one, because I enjoyed it, and two, I was doing it to help pay for college. I think those are reasonable justifications. I didn't want to go pro. I didn't want to go Olympian even if I could. That's just how it is for me. It's like I want to be the best that I can be for track. I want to break the school record, and if I don't do it this year, I'm going to be super fucking upset with myself because it was right there. It's literally like 0.1 away for me, and it's frustrating because it's right there. But I want to be. It's not like I'm trying to sell myself short. I'm not just doing it. I'm not just going through the motions. I want to be the best that I can possibly be. I just don't want to do it past college. It is what it is. Because I want to move on past track. I want to kind of not have to worry about it. But yeah, that's that. Even into this day, I'm in my final year of track and field. I technically last year should have been my last year, but because of COVID-19, that whole fun pandemic, we had our season canceled, and so because of that, we get an extra year of eligibility. I managed to work around my college schedule, what classes I need left to make it so I was academically eligible to run. And so because of that, now I get to run again this year and hopefully get to break that record, because last year was pretty much a throwaway year since we had a month and a half to train before we ran and competed. So, it is what it is. It sucks, but we kind of all expected it. Anyways, as much as I'm still doing track and I want to give praise to track, there's one other sport. One absolute sport that I just have to give it to. Wrestling. I did wrestling my sophomore and junior year of high school. And I have to say, wrestling is the hardest sport you can train for. It requires so much of you to do it. And it is ridiculous because you have 2-minute rounds. You have 3 rounds in 3 2-minute rounds. It doesn't sound like much, but wrestling requires every single fucking body, like every single muscle in your body to be at 100% for all 6 minutes, and you get tired out fast. Because you have a guy who you're trying to constantly contend with. You're contending with his own fucking raw power, his technique, and all that thing. Trying not to get pinned, that kind of stuff. Absolutely insane. So you have to condition the hell out of yourself. If you're in a weight group, you have to stay in that weight group, for your team to be able to compete. If you're going over, you got to you're practicing in a 90-degree room. On top of that, you have sweater and sweats on, so you're just fucking dying in there. It was ridiculous. I owe a lot of. I really gotta say, the person I am now, like the tougher person I am now, just like physically when it comes to athletics, in my just like how shit like looks to me when it comes to athletics, is because of wrestling. I can look at any other sport or any workout from a sport. I'm like, compared to wrestling, that is fucking nothing. Compared to the amount of running that we had to do after having a 90-minute practice in a 90-degree room where we're dying and wrestling and training, and then going outside and running stadiums and running laps around the track and doing all kinds of circuits and weights, it requires so much out of you. But I gotta say, like, it is tough. It's not for everyone. It really isn't. But wrestling is such a fun ordeal for it. It was fun. The only reason I quit wrestling is because my junior year, I tried fireman rolling someone, injured my neck, like a little bit of a slip disc, and it's like I could barely feel my shoulders. I'm like, okay, I have a really promising track career. I'm not gonna ruin it. I'm gonna quit wrestling and just be done with it. So it kind of sucked. I liked wrestling. It definitely helped my endurance, my conditioning. But holy fuck, did I gotta curse here because it's so adamant to me. And this is the rough, and I guess this is something that I want to end off on. If you are doing something with a group, if it's something easy, you're not going to bond with that group. But if you fucking suffer with that group, if you help each other, you push each other through something that is tough, is grueling, and that all of you are suffering for, not just one person is getting easy, but everyone suffers, you are like, holy fuck, we can do this if, we encourage each other. You bond so much more. I remember as wrestling, we would sometimes gather in the wrestling room. We would sit down, turn the lights off, and we'd sit down in the circle, turn the lights off, and we talk about stuff. And I remember it's like we all kind of exposed some things about ourselves that we normally wouldn't talk, because we all trusted each other. We all fucking liked each other. We all were like pretty much brothers and sisters in that room because we had boys and girls. We were essentially like, they were a second family for me for a long time. Even for all the 2 years I was there and the 2 years I was with them, I would not have asked for a better group of now. And that's, that was back in high school, because high school I was not very social. I told them things, about things that how I used to be. I used to be really, really down bad mentally. My freshman year is not doing well. Later years in middle school was really struggling mentally. And yeah, it took a toll on me, partially because the whole financial crisis 2008, we were struggling to get my brother through school. My brother ended up getting, shipped off to it was a struggle for us. So it took a toll on me mentally. I remember it's like, by my sophomore and junior year, I was doing much better, but I told him about stuff that I was reluctant to even tell my parents about at the time. So yeah, it's like sports. If you're not the most athletic person, awesome. I hope I think everyone should do something to at least keep themselves physically healthy. whether it be walking, hiking, weight lifting, just do something. Be physical. It really does make you feel better. I think it's always nice to find a group of people to do something tough with, because it will. If you're looking for a group to bond with, that's probably the best fucking way you're gonna get it. But yeah, with that being said, folks, that's my experiences with sports. I didn't talk about everything, but I think that's still pretty a sizable chunk of my views and experience. But I also want to know what you guys have done with sports. Have you done sports in the past? Have you not? If you have done sports, what kind of sports did you do? What was your experience with that? What kind of stuff did you get out of it? And did it help you become a better person or worse person in some cases? But yeah, with that being said, I want to know in the comments, folks, but that's all I have for this video. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, if you liked what you heard and you want to hear more in the future, you know what to do. This has been Jumping Quills, and I'll see you folks in the next one.